In Senegal, a bus accident claims dozens of lives.
Authorities say the bus skidded and overturned landing on its roof. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Marcos administration to expand health facilities to the grassroots level. Malaysian business leaders vow multi-million-dollar investments in the Philippines. Vietnam unveils its plan to set up facilities in the West Philippine Sea. Niger soldiers announce a coup on national television. And Phil-Am rapper Easy Mills signs with Eminem's record label Shady Music. The Marcos administration is preparing to increase the number of health facilities at the grassroots level in the country. Catherine Ortula for the report.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. approves the Philippine Health Facility Development Plan 2020 to 2040, or PHFDP, with the aim to expand health service to grassroots levels. The initiative was signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and was released by the Malacañang Palace. Under the development plan, all agencies and local government units, or LGUs, are directed to set up health facilities for their constituents. The circular adds that the Department of Health is required to assist LGUs in making policies to establish networks of healthcare providers. DOH is also due to issue guidelines to effectively implement the circular. PHFDP serves as the country's overall framework for infrastructure and medical investments, seeking to provide an integrated health system for every Filipino. The Health Development Plan is anchored to the Republic No. 11223, or the Universal Healthcare Act of 2019, directing the state to adopt the best health systems, policies, and programs to ensure a people-oriented process in the delivery of health services in the country. Catherine Ortula, reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, reports that the increasing use of e-vehicles poses a significant threat to the jobs of millions of automotive industry workers. ECOP claims that approximately 2 to 3 million workers in the automotive sector may lose their jobs in the next 3 to 5 years, driven partly by the 5 to 30% tax exemption for e-vehicle users under Republic Act 11697. To address this issue, ECOP emphasizes the need to retrain workers to match the skills required in the e-vehicle industry. The Technical Education and Skills Development Authority proposes solutions such as high-level training, better industry education alignment, and apprenticeship programs.
The Philippine peso appreciated at 54.55 pesos against the US dollar. Julian Bunag tells us more.
The Bankers Association of the Philippines showed data that the Philippine peso strengthened by 20.50 centavos from Friday's 54.76 pesos to the dollar. The peso opened at 54.60 to the dollar on Tuesday, showing its strongest value at 54.49 pesos and valued at 54.63 pesos to the dollar. The US dollar marks its potentially weakening value this week, as Forex dollar trade sunk to $1.103 billion on Tuesday, as compared to $1.17 billion last week. In May, US personal consumption expenditures, or PCES, gained 0.1% after a 0.4% rise in the previous month. Traders forecast the peso to US dollar exchange rate to play between 54.40 pesos and 54.65 pesos per dollar in the coming days. Julian Bunag for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
United States-based financial intelligence firm Moody Analytics says that the Philippines remains on a positive growth path. Vin Pascua tells us more.
Moody's Analytics forecast shows that the 2023 Philippine Growth Index in the month of June lies at 6.1% from its previous 5.7%. The financial intelligence firm notes that the said gain hints the country to receive fiscal support and a government-led infrastructure push. According to Moody's Analytics chief Steve Cochrane, the Philippines has many factors that will guarantee the perpetual growth of its economy. He adds that there are still things to consider and the warranty is achieved if such plans for improvements are executed efficiently and timely. The Marcos administration is unrelenting to achieve the elevation of poverty in the country and raising its economic status. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. established the 8-point socio-economic agenda along with the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, both with the aim boosting the country's economy. Vin Pascua, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation and Unity, or OPA-PRU, will resume the decommissioning process for the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, Bangsamoro Islamic Armed Forces, or MIL-FBIAF combatants next month. This will complete the first, second, and third phases, resulting in a total of 26,000 decommissioned combatants. OPA-PRU Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. praises the President's efforts in advancing the Bangsamoro peace process, including the creation of the Unified Bangsamoro Transition Authority after 2 months in office. The independent decommissioning body also aims to finish the decommissioning process before the first election in the BARM in 2025.
The Department of National Defense, or DND, is actively building a credible defense posture to safeguard the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. DND Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. emphasizes the importance of strong fundamentals in upgrading equipment, bridging gaps between modernization phases, and enhancing the skills of personnel. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. instructs them to explore alliances with non-traditional partners to further strengthen defensive capabilities. The DND is also committed to boosting the morale and welfare of defense personnel, including retirees and veterans, and ensuring the well-being of their families during deployments.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is focusing on its ongoing modernization programs Horizon 3, aiming to acquire multi-role fighter aircraft, naval assets, submarines, and more. The AFP has already procured various platforms such as Black Hawk combat utility helicopters and missile frigates. AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. also highlights the importance of developing cyber warfare capabilities to secure the territorial defense capabilities of the armed forces. President Marcos reaffirmed his commitment to strengthen the police and military during his second SONA. Bronner expresses gratitude to the president for his strong support in the modernization efforts.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. gained significant investment pledges totaling $285 million from Malaysian business leaders during his 3-day state visit to Malaysia. Elijah Villanueva tells us more.
The investment commitments that we have received thus far are valued at around $235 million, which is a good indication that there is strong interest from Malaysia to invest in the Philippines.
The Malaysian business leaders show interest in investing toward various sectors in the Philippines, such as food processing, aviation, and water treatment, among others. President Marcos expresses gratitude for the trust shown by Malaysian investors and highlights the Philippines' robust economic recovery.
The Philippines has shown healthy signs of recovery from the economic downturn brought about by the pandemic. We are very proud to have registered a 7.6% growth in 2022. This makes the Philippine economy one of the best performing in the region.
The president also mentions policy amendments in sectors like foreign investments, public services, and renewable energy to facilitate foreign ownership. He assures continued support for both current and prospective Malaysian investors in the Philippines. Elijah Villanueva for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Pag-asa spots the eye of Typhoon Doksuri at 255 kilometers west of Itbayat, Batanes, outside of the Philippine area of responsibility as of 5 p.m. Doksuri is moving north-northwest at 15 kilometers per hour with maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour near the center with gustiness of up to 180 kilometers per hour. The State Weather Bureau raised storm wind signal number 1 on Batanes, north of Apayao, Ilocos Norte, northwest of Cagayan and Babuyan Islands. Meanwhile, Pag-asa reports a low-pressure area outside PAR has developed into a tropical depression. The center is located at 1,585 kilometers east of eastern Visayas, outside of the country's monitoring area. The tropical depression is moving north-northwest at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour.
Coming up, French President Macron denounces new imperialism during a landmark visit to Vanuatu. China names veteran diplomat Wang Yi its new foreign minister. And Niger's soldiers declare coup on national TV. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Looking where to invest? Paano mag-invest sa real estate na hindi kailangan ng malaking puhunan? Even in death, there are opportunities, business at that. We are going to speak with executives from St. John Memorial Park and Manila North Green Park to give us a wealth of knowledge and insights into buying crypts for future use as lasting tributes to our loved ones or as investments.
Ang tao kasi basically gusto nilang mag-invest for the future.
Ang crypt is also considered real estate. However, ang difference, pwede mo siyang i-compare sa insurance.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Thank you for watching Mata ng Agila International. To receive more trusted, connected, and on-point news, follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV. We now welcome you back to Mata ng Agila International. Vietnam shows its interest in the West Philippine Sea, or WPS, in a detailed document plan to build permanent structures and facilities. A document entitled Planning of Construction Projects on Pearson Reef and Pigeon Reef in Spratly Island shows Vietnam's interest in the disputed waters. Said document was also signed by the commander of the Vietnam People's Navy, Rear Admiral Tran Thanh Nguyen. Vietnam claimed the Horizon Reef in 1978 and Pigeon Reef in 1988, adding to the list of claimants of the reefs. The Vietnam People's Navy said that the implementation of construction planning in Spratly Islands will help to improve its its defense system. Meanwhile, Vietnamese military engineering systems are also present on the reef. Among them are a seaplane apron, Radar Station 44, 685th Brigade Middle Range Missile Fortification, anti-aircraft gun fortifications, and various trenches and covert fortifications. The Hizon Reef project includes the construction of cultural houses, a pagoda, a reservoir, an oil storage tank, a desalination unit, wind and solar power systems. The projects are under the direct management of the Navy Command and has an estimated budget of 14.829 million pesos, the sum of the 8.664 million pesos for Hizon Reef and 6.188 million for Pigeon Reef.
French President Emmanuel Macron has denounced new imperialism during a landmark visit to the Pacific nation of Vanuatu, warning of a threat to the sovereignty of smaller states. Macron, on the first visit of a current French leader to an independent Pacific state, seeks to highlight France's importance in a highly contested region. His comments come as the United States Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, told reporters in Papua New Guinea that Washington was not seeking a permanent base in the Pacific Islands nation. The independent Pacific states often see the U.S. and China competing for military, economic, and diplomatic influence. As the U.S. and its allies seek to counter China's growing sway in the region, France proposed an alternative in the form of expanded aid and infrastructure development to help combat natural catastrophes. France has sovereignty over 3 territories in the Pacific: New Caledonia, French Polynesia, and Wallis and Futuna.
L'Indo-Pacifique tout particulièrement, et peut-être l'Océanie plus encore en son sein, a une souveraineté et une indépendance qui est bousculée par le monde contemporain. D'abord, la prédation des grandes puissances. Les navires étrangers pêchent de manière illégale une zone économique exclusive. Dans la région, de nombreux prêts aux conditions léonines étranglent littéralement les développements. Les pratiques commerciales sont de plus en plus détournées de leurs fondements. Les ingérences se multiplient. Il y a en Indo-Pacifique et tout particulièrement en Océanie de nouveaux impérialismes qui apparaissent et une logique de puissance qui vient menacer la souveraineté de nombreux États, les plus petits, souvent les plus fragiles.
Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen has announced his resignation after ruling the Southeast Asian nation for nearly 4 decades. The strongman is set to appoint his son Hun Manet as his replacement for Prime Minister. His step down from office could cause instability, but analysts say that his leadership of the ruling Cambodian People's Party will still give him enough power and influence to be able to control matters to a certain extent. Hun Manet, who was the commander of the Royal Cambodian Army, took a leading role in campaigning for his father's most recent election victory this year and was often spotted leading rallies next to his father. Cambodia's most recent election was widely seen as ceremonial because the only credible opposition party had been disqualified from the vote. Hun Sen's elimination of political opponents has been widely criticized by multiple foreign nations. The Southeast Asian nation of 16 million people has also seen an increased amount of crackdowns on dissent and free speech, with most independent media outlets, rights groups, trade unions, and non-government organizations facing numerous threats of closure. It will be Cambodia's first transfer of power in 4 decades since Hun Sen rose to power in 1985.
ហើយច្បាស់ហ៊ុនម៉ាណែតនឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមធ្វើនយោបាយរដ្ឋមន្ត្រីនៅល្ងាចថ្ងៃទី22ខែសីហាឆ្នាំ2023ខាងមុខហើយសូមការគាំទ្រពីសម្ដេចប្រជាពលរដ្ឋកម្ពុជាចំពោះហ៊ុនម៉ាណែតដែលជានាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីថ្មីជាមួយនឹងខ្ញុំប្រកាសណាខ្ញុំក្នុងឋានៈជាប្រធានបកហើយអនាគតនឹងក្លាយទៅជាប្រធានព្រឹទ្ធសភាដែលនឹងដើរតួនាទីជាប្រមុខរដ្ឋស្ដីទីនៅពេលអវត្តមានព្រះមហាក្សត្រ
A Chinese naval base in Cambodia is nearing completion. Satellite images show the progress of the Chinese-built infrastructure, indicating that it would be able to accommodate an aircraft carrier. The construction at Ream Naval Base shows that the pier is identical to the naval base established in its outpost in Djibouti. With the establishment of this facility, China would have a renewed significant tactical presence in the area. According to the Pentagon, Beijing has been working on this facility in Cambodia to boost its ability to project naval power. Experts said that both main piers are 363 meters long and large enough to support any ship in China's naval arsenal, including the new 300-meter-long Type 3 Fujian aircraft carrier. Analysts have also observed the construction of a 38,000 square meter artificial peninsula on the base's southern shore, containing military structures, including a headquarters facility, barracks, and fuel storage areas.
China has sent Russia additional military equipment, exploiting loopholes in Western sanctions. Moscow has imported over $100 million in drones from China this year alone, in addition to ordering significant amounts of Chinese military equipment. Using evidence such as customs records, analysts have reported that Chinese manufacturers have been providing protective gear to equip Russian troops, as well as Russian drones that can be repurposed to direct artillery fire and drop grenades on opposing forces. Chinese manufacturers have also sent thermal optical sights that can target soldiers at night. Russia has imported more than $100 million worth of drones from China since the start of this year, as well as $225 million in ceramics, which can be used in body armor, marking a significant increase compared to last year's numbers. The items being imported are classified under non-lethal equipment, meaning it could have civilian as well as military applications. China has repeatedly denied sending military equipment to Russia since it launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022. Ukraine said earlier this year that it was finding a growing number of Chinese parts in Russian weapons that it captured, including drones and tanks.
China named veteran diplomat Wang Yi its new foreign minister, replacing King Gang after a mysterious one-month absence from his duties. Qin, a former aide to President Xi Jinping and envoy to the United States, took over the ministry in December, but has not been seen in public since June 25 when he met visiting diplomats in Beijing. The ministry has said he was off work for health reasons without giving details, drawing speculations to the secrecy surrounding China's communist leadership and decision-making. Qin's successor Wang was also his predecessor, who held the post from 2013 to 2022, a period which Beijing described as an all-time low with U.S. relations. He has filled in for Qin during his absence and represented China at a National Security Advisors meeting of BRICS countries in Johannesburg. Chinese state media did not say why Qin was removed, where Xi signed a presidential order to make the decision effective.
President Yoon Suk-yeol, along with foreign dignitaries, visit the United Nations Memorial Cemetery to pay respects to fallen soldiers on the 70th anniversary of the Korean War ceasefire. Representatives from countries that participated in the war, including New Zealand Governor General Cindy Kiro and Luxembourg's Prime Minister Xavier Bettel, accompanied President Yoon. The group honors the remains of soldiers from the United States, Australia, France, and Norway, among others, which are laid to rest at the cemetery. The ceremony marks the importance President Yoon places on bringing back the remains of Korean War heroes to their homeland.
Kim Jong-un tours a defense exhibition displaying North Korea's newest and most advanced weaponry during a visit to the country by Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. The exhibition includes intercontinental ballistic missiles and newly unveiled unmanned aerial vehicles. Kim and Shoigu discussed matters of mutual concern in the field of national defense and security, reaffirming their countries' friendly relations. The visit comes amidst Washington's accusation that Pyongyang supplied Moscow with weapons for its war in Ukraine, which North Korea has denied.
NATO says it is strengthening surveillance activities in the Black Sea region following Russia's pullout from the Ukraine grain deal. On Wednesday, the NATO-Ukraine Council held a meeting at the request of Ukraine for crisis consultation. The participants discussed Russia's repeated attacks on Ukraine and elsewhere following Moscow's unilateral withdrawal from the deal. The council noted that Russia's new warning on ships in the Black Sea has created new risks for miscalculation and escalation, resulting to hindering freedom of navigation. Moscow said that it would regard any ships traveling to Ukraine's Black Sea ports as possibly carrying military cargo. The council said NATO and its allies are ramping up their maritime patrol activities in the region using aircraft and drones.
Moldova expelled 45 Russian diplomats and other embassy staff over alleged espionage activity. This brings down the Russian delegation in Moldova to just 25 people, similar to the staff Moldova has in their Moscow embassy. Moldova's foreign ministry voiced concern about a report on new surveillance equipment installed on the Russian embassy's roof and a neighboring building rented by the Russian government. Russia denounced the expulsion, claiming that Chisinau's actions were highly uncalled for. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that as a response, Moscow intends to place restrictions on consular services and Moldovan contracts, but declined to give specific details. Moldova is one of Europe's poorest economies, highly affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It has faced multiple energy crises due to outdated power infrastructure and gas and resource restrictions placed by neighboring countries. An influx of Ukrainian refugees also took a heavy toll on its economy. The European Union agreed to ban exports of battlefield equipment and aviation parts to Belarus, expanding sanctions on Moscow's ally for its involvement in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Spain said in a post on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, the new sanctions were a response to the situation in Belarus and the latter's involvement in the Russian aggression against Ukraine. The decision must still be finalized and will take effect if none of the bloc's 27 member states raise any objections by Friday. A draft of the decision dated June 24 named aircraft engines and their parts among exports under the new sanctions that extends to Belarus, adding to the EU's trade curbs against Russia. Introducing sanctions requires the approval of all 27 member countries, as advocated for by Poland and Lithuania.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken paves the way for New Zealand to take part in Australia, United Kingdom, United States for AUKUS Defence Pact.
On AUKUS, as we continue to develop it, as we continue to work, particularly now on the second pillar, the door is very much open for New Zealand and other partners to engage as they see appropriate. Going forward, New Zealand is a deeply trusted partner.
New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins says that Wellington is open to dialogues in regard to its possible role with the trilateral bloc as long as it does not concern itself with the development of nuclear-powered submarines. Sources say the two nations are seeking to engage in bilateral cooperation on defense technologies. New Zealand has been a nuclear-free country since the mid-1980s.
In Niger, soldiers broadcasted on national television claiming to have overthrown incumbent President Mohamed Bazoum in a coup. On July 26, soldiers of the Presidential Guard blockaded the presidential palace to depose Bazoum.
Toutes les institutions issues de la 7e République sont suspendues. Les secrétaires généraux des ministères se chargeront de l'expédition des affaires courantes. Les forces de défense et de sécurité gèrent la situation. Il est demandé à tous les partenaires extérieurs de ne pas s'ingérer.
Colonel Major Amadou Adramane announced that the institutions of the current republic have been suspended and a caretaker government shall effectively take its place. All borders have been closed in the landlocked African country and nationwide curfew has taken effect.
Les guerres terrestres et aériennes sont fermées jusqu'à la stabilisation de la situation. Un couvre-feu est instauré à compter de ce jour. de 22h à 5h du matin sur toute l'étendue du territoire jusqu'à nouvel ordre.
Up next, thousands took to the streets of Cuba to commemorate Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution. People in the Miami-Dade area are finding their medical debts paid off. And suspects of the 2016 Brussels bombings are finally sentenced in Belgium. Please don't go away. We've got more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Ano nga ba ang career ni Juan de la Cruz? Ano nga ba ang career goals natin sa panahon ngayon?
I believe also na what's meant to happen to us will happen. So parang yung pagbiging broadcaster, hindi ko talaga siya pinlano.
I took fashion design. Sorry to say, but I quit.
Oh.
I quit kasi gusto ko talaga mag-abroad at magtrabaho. Lito-lito talaga yung mind ko.
Right now, mahirap bigyan ng direksyon ng bata pagdating sa career path. Dahil in the next 5 to 10 years, makakakita tayo ng mga career na hindi pa natin nakikita.
Ilan nga ba sa ating mga Pilipino ang nakakamit ang kanilang mga pangarap na trabaho? Mag-reality check tayo.
A day of celebration in Cuba on Wednesday as thousands took to the streets to mark the start of Fidel Castro's revolt against Fulgencio Batista. The attack on the Moncada barracks 70 years ago failed, but it served as a catalyst for the revolution that toppled Batista's dictatorship. It took Castro's revolutionary forces another 6 years to achieve victory. To mark the occasion, the government held celebrations at the Moncada barracks. They are named after General Guillermo Moncada, a hero of the Cuban War of Independence. The crowd heard from President Miguel Diaz-Canel and former President Raul Castro. Since the revolution, Cuba has faced major political and economic challenges. For decades, the U.S. has had little to do with the Caribbean island and its 11 million inhabitants. Despite that embargo, Cuba has built strong education and healthcare systems and improved the quality of life for its citizens.
In the U.S., an updated policy guidance ensuring and strengthening the rights and protections guaranteed to children with disabilities and their families has been released today and takes effect immediately. This under America's Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. Philip Toledo has the details.
The updated guidance addresses the IDEA's general supervision requirement, which requires states to monitor local education agencies and early intervention service providers. This to ensure children with disabilities and their families access their rights under the IDEA. The updated guidance will provide states with accessible and actionable information necessary to timely identify and correct noncompliance, help ensure the rights guaranteed under the IDEA to children with disabilities and their families are protected, and reaffirm expectations across states to help ensure consistent implementation of the IDEA. OSEP Director Valerie C. Williams says this guidance ensures that all school-age children, regardless of the nature or severity of their disability, can access free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Williams says that it also ensures that infants and toddlers with disabilities, as well as their families, are able to receive appropriate intervention services to the maximum extent appropriate. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Miami-Dade County residents received a remarkable gift when billionaires Daniel and Jane Ock decided to foot the $264 million medical debt of over 125,000 individuals in the community. The Ox philanthropy aims to improve economic stability for Miami-Dade residents, allowing them to access quality medical care without financial burdens. The donation, channeled through the Jane and Daniel Ock Family Foundation, is dispersed by RIP Medical Debt, a nonprofit organization that purchases delinquent hospital bills at a discounted rate to pay them off. RIP Medical Debt has been relieving medical debt for millions of families across the country since 2014, totaling $9 billion so far. The Ock family and RIP's efforts are crucial as medical debt in the United States totals at least $88 billion.
In observance of World Drowning Prevention Day this year, the World Health Organization is calling on countries and partners to make drowning prevention a global priority. Rosel Feria tells us more.
Drowning is a leading cause of death globally for children and young people. In 2019 alone, an estimated 236,000 people drowned worldwide. Over 90% of these drowning deaths occur in low and middle-income countries. These include kids under the age of 5 being at the highest risk. On World Drowning Prevention Day this year, WHO encourages investing in daycare for preschool-aged children and teaching basic swim skills to school-aged children. The Global Health Agency says these two measures could protect millions of lives. WHO says that by 2050, increased global investment in these two preventive steps could save the lives of over 774,000 children. It can also prevent close to 1 million non-fatal child drownings and avert severe and life-limiting injuries for 178,000 drowning victims. In Washington, D.C., Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In the United States, the Ohio State Highway Patrol terminates a police officer after a review of his actions on the 4th of July when he ordered his canine to attack an unarmed black suspect. The black suspect was compliant and had his arms up, cooperating with the police. A body camera footage revealed the canine biting his arm as he was taken to the ground. Other officers allegedly told the police officer not to release the dog since the suspect was compliant. In response to the incident, the department's canine unit was sent back to their training facility for further evaluation and training. It is not clear whether the officer will face criminal charges for his actions.
6 people have been injured after a construction crane in New York City caught fire and collapsed. 2 firefighters and 4 civilians sustained minor injuries in the accident in Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan. Joan Soriano has the details.
The fire broke out in the cab of the crane about 8 a.m. local time. The crane operator tried to extinguish the fire, but the flames overwhelmed him. He managed to escape without injuries. As it collapsed, the crane's boom hit a building across the street, sending shattered glass and other debris crashing to the street. Manhattan firefighters had to tackle the blaze from the roof of another building. Apparently, the fire started as the crane was hoisting 16 tons of concrete. It's believed the load exceeded the crane's lifting ability. Firefighters used drones to inspect the crane once they extinguished the flames. Cause of the fire is not known. In Manhattan, New York, Joanne Soriano for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A fire on a cargo ship carrying almost 3,000 cars off the coast of the Dutch island of Ameland has left 1 sailor dead and 22 other crew members injured. A major salvage operation is in full swing as some of the crew leapt into the sea to escape the blaze. Members of the crew initially tried to douse the flames themselves, but were overwhelmed and were eventually forced to flee. On Tuesday, the cargo ship left the port of Bremerhaven in northern Germany on course to Egypt. It ran into trouble overnight at north of the Ameland in the Wadden Sea. The Coast Guard said the cause of the fire was unknown, but had earlier suggested it might have been an electric car. They added that the fire could continue for days as rescue boats avoid pouring too much water on board to keep the cargo ship afloat.
6 men were found guilty 7 years after several bombings occurred, killing 32 people in the airports and metro stations of Belgium. Salah Abdeslam was arrested before the Brussels bombings and was found guilty of killing 130 people in the Paris bomb attacks. Osama Attar, Osama Krayem, Ali Al-Haddad Asufi, and Bilal El-Makhouki are also among those found guilty of terrorist activity. Mohamed Abrini was identified at Brussels National Airport smuggling explosives into the country and was arrested a week after. 16 people died in Zaventem Airport after the two bombs went off on opposite ends of departure halls. The bombing attack in Brussels took place within an hour in March of 2016. The court ruled to add Shanti de Court, Xavier Legrand, and Matthew Fisher as victims of bomb attacks, bringing the total death toll to 35.
A bus accident in northern Senegal on Wednesday has left at least 24 people dead and more than 50 injured. The country's interior minister says 4 of the victims are children. Irvin Arquiza reports.
The accident happened about 7:40 a.m. local time. The bus had been coming from a town in the northern part of the country. Authorities say it carried 76 people despite having a 60-person capacity. Apparently, the bus skidded and overturned, landing on its roof. The wreckage could be seen lying on the side of the road with passengers' belongings scattered around it. In January, 19 people died in a collision in the same area. Last week in central Senegal, 40 people died in a bus collision. Bus accidents are common in African countries. Poorly maintained vehicles, reckless driving, and corrupt police officers all contribute to the problem. Irvin Arquiza from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The World Health Organization says the extreme heat in the Northern Hemisphere is putting an increasing strain on healthcare systems. And the organization warns those least able to cope are hit the hardest. Thomas I. Likeness has that story.
Millions of people on 3 continents north of the equator are baking in a sustained spell of dangerous heat. The high temperatures make pre-existing health conditions worse, particularly things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and asthma. That means more visits to the doctor, or in more serious cases, more trips to the hospital. Most vulnerable fall into a number of categories: older people, infants and children, the poor, the homeless. For many of these people, the consequence of heat is fatal. World Health Organization Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the death toll from heat waves is in the tens of thousands.
The new study published this month estimates that more than 61,000 people died from heat-related causes in 35 European countries during last year's Northern Hemisphere summer.
High temperatures, along with a lack of rain, have sparked wildfires in dozens of regions. At least 40 people have died in those blazes, and the smoke-filled air that the fires produce contributes to even more health problems. Tedros also worries about people who have substandard living conditions.
We're also concerned about the impact of extreme weather on the health of people who are displaced or living in conflict-affected or vulnerable settings, where there is limited or no access to safe water and sanitation, lack of cooling, and shortage of medical supplies.
Tedros says countries have to develop hot weather action plans to reduce the impact of excessive heat on health. That means making people aware of the need to avoid strenuous activities during the hottest part of the day, finding a cool place indoors, and being aware of heat stroke or heat exhaustion. Climatologists tell us extreme weather is going to be with us for the foreseeable future. And perhaps now it's time for governments around the globe to start treating it like a public health problem. Thomas I. Likeness from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, Australian court orders Meta to pay fines amounting to $14 million. Lionel Messi shines with a stellar performance in his first Inter-Miami start. And Filipino rapper Easy Mill signs with Dr. Dre and Eminem's Shady Music. Catch the latest in business, sports, tech, and entertainment. Matanang Agila International will be back.
back.
Sino mo kailangan check sa kagandang aso? No, I don't think you understand me. I said, who is your hero? What do you mean? Oh yes, I mean.
Ngayong linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali. Dito lang sa Net 25.
Sinungaling ka! Kasi...
Bakit nabali yung baseball bat? Ayoko na umakyat, kayo na lang. Bakit? Parang hindi safe eh.
Paano mo naman sabi yun?
Eh kasi tinan mo, ang dami lang nahumubo. 5 points!
An Australian court orders Meta to pay fines amounting to $14 million for undisclosed data collection. The fine wraps up Meta's legal issues in Australia concerning its handling of user information with Cambridge Analytica in the 2016 United States election. Australia's federal court call to Meta is related to a virtual private network or VPN service between 2016 and 2017 dubbed Onavo. Facebook, however, allegedly used Onavo to collect users' location, time, and other information using other smartphone apps and websites they visited for its own advertising objectives. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission data show that Meta made global revenue of approximately $116 billion in 2022. India is set to launch 7 Singaporean satellites at Sriharikota Spaceport on July 30. The Indian rocket PSLV C-56 is tasked to deliver Singapore's DSSAR satellites along with 6 co-passenger satellites into orbit. The DSSAR satellite is developed under a partnership between Singapore's Defence Science and Technology and ST Engineering. The satellite carries a synthetic aperture radar, allowing an all-weather day and night coverage. MasterCard announced its return to the 2023 edition of Gamers 8 featuring the Land of Heroes in Saudi Arabia. Gamers 8 is an electronic sport event organized by the Saudi Esports Federation. MasterCard, as a sponsor, hosted a selection of daily tournaments that started on July 6 and will end on August 31st, 2023. The technology company aims to encourage gamers across the kingdom and beyond and empower them to start on immersive gaming journeys. Meanwhile, the Saudi Esports Federation hopes that the event will contribute to the kingdom's growth as its central of digital and gaming innovation.
The Argentinian superstar Lionel Messi is red hot in powder pink, scoring twice and assisting once on his first start. This comes as Inter Miami scored a dominant 4-0 win over Atlanta United. The Argentina star scored 2 inside the opening 22 minutes before dishing out a beautiful assist to Robert Taylor in the second half. His performance followed a match-winning stoppage-time free kick on his debut last week. Messi, who is a 7-time Ballon d'Or winner, only trained with his teammates for the first time last week after moving to the Major League Soccer at the end of his contract with Paris Saint-Germain. The 2022 World Cup winner scored 32 goals in 75 games during a 2-year stint with the French champions and turned down lucrative offers from other clubs to play in the U.S. League. With the win, Inter Miami moves into the knockout stages of the league's cup. In a bout of sportsmanship after netting his second goal, Messi celebrated by pointing at Inter Miami owner David Beckham.
Over to Robert Taylor. Taylor cutting it back. Martinez left it for Messi. Oh my word! He has done it again! Lionel Messi, 3 goals in less than an hour.
A Norwegian woman and her Nepali guide set the record for the fastest summit of all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter mountains. Norwegian climber Kristin Agila and Tenjin Sherpa, known as Lama, scaled the world's second highest peak in Pakistan in 3 months. Over 200 climbers headed for summit push in a very short weather window on K2, but many have abandoned the pursuit due to unstable weather conditions. Earlier, they climbed Mount Manaslu on June 10, as well as Mount Annapurna on June 5. In a quest to summit all 14 of the world's highest mountains, the multiple record holder climbers scaled Mount Everest and Mount Lhotse on May 23. Now, Kristin and Tenjin have smashed the fastest summit record held by Nerman Purja, who climbed all 14 peaks, including Mount Manaslu and Mount Dalagiri real summits in 2 years, 5 months, and 15 days. Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey was acquitted of 9 alleged sex offenses in Britain. In the latest court victory for the Oscar winner, he was acquitted by majority verdicts in London following a trial lasting several weeks. The jury in London cleared Spacey of all 9 counts that he faced after more than 12 hours of deliberations. It comes less than a year after a New York court dismissed a $40 million sexual misconduct civil lawsuit brought against him and follows charges of indecent and sexual assault being dropped in 2019. Spacey's once stellar career has been halted by the various allegations of sexual offenses, which first emerged in 2017. The alleged offenses included 7 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent, and 1 count of causing a person to engage in penetrative sexual activity without consent. Filipino-American rapper Easy Mill has signed with the music labels of international rap icons Eminem and Dr. Dre. The 24-year-old rapper shared a photo online with the 2 famous rappers. He will join Shady Records, Aftermath Entertainment, and Interscope Records owned by award-winning artists Eminem and Dr. Dre, where he will join the likes of rapper 50 Cent. The company said that Eminem noticed Easy Mill's rapping skills through his single Up Down. Shady Records also revealed that Easy Mill will release Duality Redux on August 11, which will be his final project under his current label. Easy Mill, whose real name is Ezekiel Miller, was born in Olongapo. He is currently based in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he rose to fame in 2021 for his viral hit Panalo.
Yet another reason we ought to be proud as Filipinos.
Yes, Filipinos are incredibly talented, so congratulations to Easy Mill.
Yep, congratulations, Easy Mill. And for your Thursday motivation, here's a quote from Monacan Formula One driver Charles Leclerc. Being honest with myself is something I like. I am happy that I don't make excuses when I make a mistake. This is a good way to improve in the fastest way.
It definitely is, for me, the best way to improve in the fastest way, just taking accountability for your mistakes and knowing how to grow from them.
But it's also easy to imagine how difficult it can be to apologize when you are wrong.
Yes, yes.
Something we need to learn every day.
And something we can take note of this Thursday. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. We want to say happy 109th anniversary to Iglesia ni Cristo.
Happy 109th anniversary, Iglesia ni Cristo.
Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Rich Yelago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.